Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Sigma Sunday. Thank you so much for being here. I want to start today with a question as a business owner. Do you feel like you're running at full speed, but you're going nowhere? Guess what? You're not alone. Burnout is a silent epidemic among entrepreneurs, and if you ignore it, it will catch up with you fast. The problem is that burnout is more than just feeling tired. It's emotional exhaustion, it's detachment, feeling reduced in your performance, and even the way you show up with your family. As business owners, we tend to push ourselves to the limit, working late nights, skipping meals, and sacrificing self-care. The problem is the harder you push without recovering, the less effective you become. You might think you're being productive, but you're actually digging a deeper hole. So, now that I've given you the problem, who am I and how am I going to give you the solution? My name is Rebecca Sonnenberg. I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I'm also a business owner, and so to say that I understand burnout with you would be the micro statement of the century. I also feel some days like I wake up and even my hair hurts. I'm so tired. One thing that I think I've really recognized, and these are the suggestions that I would like to give you guys today, is two things. I think the first one is really understanding delegation. I know for me personally, that was really, really difficult. I'm really at the beginning of starting my business. Two things that made that even harder for me is that I brought on people that were friends, and that very quickly that bit me in the ass. It's very lonely at the top, and there's a reason why they say that. It is difficult to walk the line of being friendly and being a boss rather than being a friend trying to be a boss. As things went on with my business, it was very difficult for me to delegate because although they were my friends, I cared about them, they were good at certain things, they weren't really good at what they were doing. And I was overlooking that. One of the hardest things that I had to do was recognize that my inability to trust and delegate to my team was on me. I had to sit down and look at the fact that I'm a people pleaser. I had to ask myself day to day, am I doing this for the greater good of the business? Or am I doing this because I think that it will make so-and-so happy, or it'll make so-and-so feel better, or it'll make so-and-so's life easier? That's a really difficult place to be. And again, that makes delegating even more difficult, if not impossible. If I'm trying to fix everything, if I'm trying to make everybody happy, I don't have time to delegate. It's my job. I'm supposed to make you feel better. I'm supposed to make the problems go away. I'm supposed to wave my magic wand and no big deal, right? So very quickly, exhaustion becomes part of what my life was. It started to look like I needed to recognize this is on me. So I had to sit down and say, what kind of change needs to happen? What is it in me that I'm not looking at? And recognize where that started from. For me, it came from even being a kid who was a people pleaser. And then that just carried into me being an owner, a boss. Once I was able to do that, I had to make the really hard decision that sometimes we can like somebody, we can even care about them, but they don't work for us and they don't work for our team. Some people don't even have the potential that we thought they would have. Sometimes we see in somebody something they can't see in themselves. And therefore we end up having to trim the fat, if you will. I did have to let those people go. And in that time to where I am now, I've been very, very blessed in hiring an amazing team. So much so that last week we had our staff meeting, and just listening to everybody take on new roles, talk about new responsibilities, even helping each other, it literally blew my mind. I walked away from that meeting for the first time in a long time, just feeling energized, feeling excited. And I recognized very quickly that part of that came from me having to have the conversations with myself and with people, saying to them and to me, this isn't a good fit, this isn't working. And me especially, not people pleasing, not fixing every single thing for everybody. So that's probably the first thing I'm gonna ask you as an entrepreneur or as a boss. Say, can you take time and look at what you're doing and how that might be affecting both positively and sometimes negatively your team? As well as how is your team growing or not growing because you're not delegating. You're not trusting them. If you're not able to give somebody a task, knowing that it makes your job in your day-to-day life easier, then you don't have the right people on your team, or you're not helping them to grow effectively. And you are going to have to look at that and why that is, and how you may have to do that better even within yourself. The second thing I'm going to give you today is that I would ask you to also look at something that's kind of a two-way struggle. It's setting boundaries and taking stock of who in the room leaves you feeling energized and leaves you feeling depleted. Okay? So sometimes we have people who are really great employees, but they suck the life out of you. And unfortunately, you know that these can both be true and they can both be a struggle. You have to really look and say, okay, this person is really good at what they do, and I don't want to let them go, but they definitely suck the energy right out of the room. How do I start to set those boundaries? How do I start to say that, the time we spend together is great. I think 10 minutes is enough, and then you leave the room and you give yourself some space, right? You're still having a check-in, but you're not necessarily letting them energy vampire you, where you walk out and you're like, well, I have to go home now and take a 10-hour nap. So where do you also say sometimes that those are the same people who come into meetings and do the same thing there? They suck the air out of the room, and they don't allow everybody else in the meeting to say, hey, I have a great idea, or hey, I want to share this. They sometimes just walk away saying, meh, what's the point? So you're going to have to set those boundaries. You're going to have those conversations of, you have really great ideas and I love them. I'm wondering if you don't mind just sharing one today and letting everybody else in the room share some as well. Okay. And sometimes that means having that conversation one-on-one to kind of prep them and get them ready for that. So as a boss, as a supervisor, you are going to be the one that starts to set those boundaries so that those who work for you will start to do the same thing. Watching you do it helps them to do the same and to be able to say, hey, I don't really like this, but let's take a minute and let's check in with what even are boundaries, because we don't get taught these a lot of times. Nobody in business school is like, hey, we're going to start with boundaries 101 today. And especially culturally, sometimes boundaries are not talked about at all. So what is a boundary? Boundaries are not this hard, get away from me, you're dead to me. It's nothing like that. Boundaries are literally like a fence in your yard. It's telling people, yes, you can come in, or no, you can't. Just like a fence. Just like a fence, you can also open it and close it whenever you feel appropriate. And depending on the person that wants to come into your yard, right? So the great thing about boundaries is just, yes, that works for me. No, that doesn't. Yes, that makes me feel good about what this decision is. Or no, this leaves me feeling really yucky for the day. So that's all it is. It's very simple. But when you start to do that and your employees start to see you doing that, then they can have those same really hard conversations with others around them who may be energy vampires and just sucking the air out of the room. Okay, so here's what I will leave you with today. I'm going to ask you to do two things, two tiny little bits of self-reflecting homework, if you will. I want you to sit down and decide and think, am I a good delegator? And am I good at setting boundaries and taking stock of who in the room energizes me or depletes me? And hold on before you say, yes, I am amazing at these things 1000%. I want you to take it a step further, and I want you to pick someone. Maybe it's somebody in your business who's your right hand, who's not a yes person, who will give you an honest answer. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a kid, because kids never lie, let me tell you what. And I want you to ask them, do you think that I am good with setting boundaries? Do you think I'm good at delegating? And do you think I'm good at taking stock of who gives energy and takes energy? And if they say yes, ask them why. Okay, take some moments, take some time to reflect on that. And especially if they say no, I really, really want you to take a moment and sit with that and ask them, okay, why? Tell me what it is that you think that I could do better in that area, or what is it you're noticing that I'm struggling? Because a lot of times we think we're doing something really great. It's like communication. Sometimes we think we communicate amazingly, and in fact, we kind of suck at it. So those are my two homework assignments for you, is I just want you to sit down, ask somebody who cares about you and who's close to you, and won't give you the answer you're looking for, but instead will give you the truth. Are you good at boundaries? Are you good at delegating? And are you good at recognizing in the room who are your energy vampires? Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next week and giving you more solutions to hopefully more things that you may be struggling with, helping you to feel better as a boss, an entrepreneur, and hopefully just waking up feeling better in your own skin as a human. Please like and share, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.